Wholeness, beautiful beings, welcome to my space, my place, my portal. Um, I just wanted to share something with you all um, that's been really heavy on my heart as I am getting older and entering, into the next season of adulthood, right? I'm a middle-aged woman and um, middle-aged human being, a being having a human experience. And so when I think of family and family matters and generational trauma and, you know, connecting to the inner child, finding the voice of the inner child within myself, it's been a very insightful and beautiful journey, I have to say. Oh, my hair's in Bantu knots and I'm taking them down, so I'm going to talk as I do this. Um, yeah, as of probably several months, I had something personal in my family, not in my family, but something shift in my perspective and in my connection to my family recently where I was very triggered, okay? And triggered in a way where I felt like it was like a deeper inner child wound. So I come from a very large family on both sides, maternal and paternal. And as a child, when you grow up in a family where you have several, aunts and uncles. There's a lot of cousins, and usually you have the patriarch or the matriarch. My grandfather on my mother's side um, was the patriarch of the family. Okay, grandpa was the man. Okay, um, he was always, to me, had a very serious stature and it seemed kind of a hardened type of person. On rare occasions would I see him get visibly and physically upset where he would cry or anything like that. But he usually would just, in his later years, especially, would just kind of, wake up late in the morning or in the afternoon, and after taking a shower, eating breakfast, he'd cook himself breakfast, and then he'd go and sit in the corner, and he would just be very pensive and quiet and, observant and whatnot. But I have fond memories with Grandpa, and I have fond memories of my childhood. Even when we moved out of state, we would always make it a point to come, all of us, all together, to come and visit with our grandparents. And in the 90s anyway, we'd have cookouts, we'd celebrate birthdays, we'd celebrate weddings, and we'd support each other through funerals. And, it was always just a really big deal, to go and visit each other, even distant relatives. But when the patriarch passed away, my grandfather transitioned and left this world. I don't know what happened. You know, I the family just stopped coming together. Everyone just kind of hunkered down into their own little worlds, and the need for visitations and keeping up with each other just wasn't really a necessity anymore. And I kind of feel like my family has become strangers to me. And I know I'm not the only human being in the world who is experiencing this as a middle-aged person or a middle-aged adult. I know, I'm not the only one who comes from dysfunction. And look, this channel is not about my private life, okay? I have levels of transparency, and I'm very intelligent enough to not get into the nitty-gritty of my personal life. But, I know what functional dysfunction is, and, I come from that. Many people do. And that kind of probably has played a part in why everyone's kind of gone their separate way. But recently, there's a relative that came through in town, and I haven't seen this relative in probably probably 6 or 8 years since a passing of another relative. And I just, I thought, oh, I'll be able to see this person, and it never happened. I was informed last minute, and I was really upset about that. I was hurt, and really upset. Like, I cried, and because I just thought, I'm like, wow, like, what am I to you? And I remember having a conversation with this person one time, which I think kind of hurt their feelings. And I said, there's a difference between a relative and a family member. I said, and family. I said, a relative is just someone that you are genetically, biologically related to, right? Family, there's more than just that biological connection. There is friendship. There's investment. There's support. There's, being honest and truthful and transparent about dysfunction, right? You have that connection, that bond. You make them a priority in your life. That is what makes family family. A relative is just somebody, you're related to. That's it. It's and I told this relative that, and they weren't too happy about that, but that's what I felt at the time. And so came through, and then I was told I was in the middle of running errands, and they dipped out, yeah, they told me when they would be in town, but they didn't, when the day came, I couldn't see them. So it was kind of like, it was just, and it's happened before with this specific person. But anyway, that whole event sparked something in me where, I have seen familial dynamics working in healthcare and working in education. And in healthcare, it's like when you have a sick relative or parent or child or sibling, you really see the dynamic. You see some of the trauma. You see the abundance of love or lack thereof, and or support. And and I've taken care of dying patients up to their death. I've taken care of patients that were in the middle of dying, and they would, like, the hospital would be their last place. They wouldn't be leaving the hospital ever, alive anyway. And I've taken care of patients where they had only so much time left on the planet. So it's just, I would see the family interactions with all that, and it just kind of really, so when this happened where I felt emotionally slighted or disrespected or just kind of pushed off, it triggered a deep wound in me, and it was almost like, am I not worthy to you, or do we have any value in our connection? And I wanted to go deeper with that feeling. And so one day in meditation, I kind of come to grips with myself as an adult, and then my wounded self as a child. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take this on. I'm going to heal this part of myself, because when you watch someone die slowly or abruptly, or you're trying to resuscitate them as their body is dying, and it really puts things into perspective. We don't have all the time in the world, There's two misconceptions. People who think they won't live forever, usually, they're like, oh, I'm not going to live forever. And they usually end up outliving everyone, living the longest. People who think they're going to be here for a while are usually the ones that are gone, fairly quickly, or just have short lives. So, so I'm sitting in meditation one morning, and I'm like, you know what? This is, and listen, I'm going to make more videos on the different types of fasts that I do. It's part of my spiritual practice. And And so I want, and I will, every Wednesday, once a week, will fast every Wednesday in honor of my family, my friends, and my ancestors, the ones who came before me, and the ones who will come after me, my nieces, or my niece, my nephews, because it starts with me, right? A lot of our childhood trauma, we want to blame the mommy and the daddy. We want to blame our grandparents and their parents and their parents' parents' parents. And I've come to the conclusion that I want to be in the space where I can call up any one of my relatives and not be burdened by what they didn't do or what they did do, you know? Because I know right now if I were to call up people, I would still be really triggered on some of the things. But I want to release myself through forgiveness. I want to elevate my ancestors for the things that they were unable to achieve and give gratitude for the things that they were able to achieve. Because when I leave this world, I want to be happy, I want to be content, and I want to be fulfilled. I don't want to, I want to be free of guilt, shame, blame, resentment, sadness, regret. We don't know when we leave this world with our bodies, but that's one thing I want to embody is a fulfilled, neutralized, open, loving heart where I can reflect back to my family, the ones who came before me and the ones who will come after me, with great love and forgiveness and gratitude. So honoring my ancestors through dry fasting once a week is what I shall do. Fasting in all different is a very powerful way to manipulate energy and to activate your spiritual practice. And so I just feel deeply called to do this. And I grew up with fasting growing up in a Muslim household. Ramadan, for 30 days, you 30 to 31 days for a whole month, you fast. And, so that you can really reflect on what you have in your life, and you can connect in a deeper spiritual way with your prayers and your intention. But there's been many traumas within my family that I couldn't control, right? It was outside of my control, that I want to alleviate and to release. I'm all for therapy and counseling and getting the help that I need, because I'm of an analytical, intellectual, critical mind. And people would tell me I used to be just right brain. No, I'm a left brain too. And so I seek to understand. And for me, I think what the best approach for me in healing is to just understanding why, right? Understanding the why. Not to change the past, not to relive it, revisit it constantly, just to understand the why, understand the intentions or the motivations, or understanding my own parents, traumas and personalities and why they do or say the things that they do or say. And in a way where my understanding is coming from a neutral, non-judgment space and place. And so that's what I intend to do moving forward in my life, and this will be a lifelong practice. I started this week, by the time you watch this video, because it'll be pre-recorded, but by the time you watch this, I'll, anyway, but I tried it out and I struggled. I ended up breaking my fast, and I just think if I create like a ritual or prayer, strong prayer around that specific day of dry fasting, it will come together and it'll get easier. My body, my mind, my subconscious mind will follow suit. So I wanted to share this with you all. You know, we break the pattern, or the pattern breaks us. And I see some of my family members where the pattern continues, and the pattern breaks them. It's breaking them, or has broken them. And I am one where I decided consciously, not for me. It ends with me. All kinds of abuses end with me. The trauma ends with me. The psychological, the codependency, the narcissism, all that crap that's genetically embedded in the blood that flows through this body ends with me. And, you know, I call upon my ancestors to assist me. People, you know, I don't know what the Christian views are when it comes to the afterlife and your relatives. In my personal spiritual practice, I am a believer that when your spirit transitions out of your vessel, your body, you are able to do things that the mind can only dream about in the spirit world to help and assist your family. I have that connection with people that cross over. I've been visited by my relatives who transitioned in many different ways. And it's a very beautiful, beautiful thing a gift to be able to do that through dreams and visions and whatnot. But I want to go deeper with that. You know, and given my lineage, which is, I believe, a very mixed lineage, very mixed, as you can see, right? I have lighter skin and light eyes, you know, in my features. I've always been curious and have a growing curiosity of where I come from. Unfortunately, when I would ask my grandmother about our lineage and where we come from, I said, one day I want to know exactly. I want to know the tribe. I want to know the other states, if we were owned in slavery and all that. And she said, well, don't go digging because you're not going to be happy with what you find. That was an insufficient answer for me. I'm a person of a curious mind, and I know that there was slavery. I'm not scared to pick up every stone and turn it over. I'm aware. Oh, if you're thinking about what this thing is, it's the eucalyptus. It's how I perfume my home. I like to collect the herbs they're very fragrant. It's usually on very humid days where the moisture, they'll suck up the moisture in the air and it'll release. They're beautiful. The beautiful scent, eucalyptus. So yeah. That's where I'm at with that. We must break the pattern, or the pattern will end up breaking you, you know? And without getting into my personal family history with trauma and all that, I think I don't need to do that. There's tons of videos on here, millions of videos at this point of people putting up their personal stories. You know, I think I would very much prefer to just do one-on-one therapy with somebody, a professional who's non-biased, neutral in their approach, and that have the professional expertise to explain to me why. Because I've done the whole thing where you go and you talk to your closest your best friend, or you tell a complete stranger, or you open up to your lover, your husband, your soulmate, or did I say soulmate? I caught myself. Your partner. No, I don't believe in soulmates. No, but like your life partner, and you have to be very careful about that with trauma dumping, with with your loved ones or your friends or family, because when people don't or haven't experienced what you've gone through, that can really traumatize them. And you know what I'm saying? It's like second degree, or third degree, like trauma, um, which can be equally as painful, and that can kind of really tarnish the relationship, unfortunately, that you have with people that aren't or don't have, they can't bear that type of weight from you. And it changes the dynamic in a relationship. I only share if I know someone went through something similar to my upbringing or my personal experiences, then I can go into detail with them. But I no longer will do that with people that I care about, and no matter if we're married or not, I don't find that's appropriate. Hire a therapist and go to counseling, because you can really, really mess someone up. It can really, I feel like, can bring damage to a connection with someone if you haven't professionally sought out ways to process your own inner trauma, your own ancestral trauma. And even with the word ancestor, when we think of ancestor, people think of hundreds and hundreds of years ago. I don't. I believe that if you have a great uncle, great aunt, second, third cousin, grandmother, grandparent, a sibling, they are instantly initiated to ancestor level. Okay, that's my spiritual understanding of it. I don't know what you all believe, but that's my personal belief system. And so, I think it's best to talk to a professional about your ancestral trauma and your childhood trauma than going to your husband or your wife about it. Because if they haven't had this almost the mirror, if they don't or haven't had experiences that almost mirror your experiences to a T, you really want to be very careful with that. I've had the unfortunate experience where people will use your vulnerability against you, unfortunately. And so, I am now very cautious now, and a lot more aware of when it is appropriate or not appropriate to talk about it. And I think at first, when you're slowly coming to terms with things that have happened to you in your life, you're like, okay, now I can tell the whole world. Now I can say it to anybody. And that is part of the healing process, but it's kind of the negative part of the healing process, because you really need to be very mindful who you're sharing such valuable and very personal information with, okay? As a side note, but patterns are meant to be broken, and they're meant to evolve and expand. And the only way we evolve and expand beyond our ancestral patterns that cause us harm is to embrace loving guidance. Embrace supreme loving guidance. And how you do that is your choice. I'm not here to spiritually instruct anybody on this channel, unless you're inquisitive and you specifically ask for me to talk about specific topics. I will do so, if appropriate. But that's just where I'm at with that. So I put some essential oil, balsam fir needle. Yeah, I've even changed a lot when it comes to essential oils. Yeah, I got caught up in the doTERRA MLM. But essential oils are really, I use and put it in my locks to keep insects away, mosquitoes specifically. They don't like that stuff, and so I think my locks are great diffusers. But yeah, that's when I'm going to leave this video, where I'm going to leave the video. I didn't mean for this to be 25 minutes long. I'm sorry. Thank you for tuning in, and take care.